Thank you. I'm not used to this. I have a couple notes, but mostly I just want to talk about my brother. That, the last part of what Chris was saying in that song, Dan did love New York. Our sister and brother-in-law and niece lived in New York City. More? Okay, my son is coaching me. When we first started going there, it was more than 40 years ago. He was just sober, and my sister and brother-in-law were living in town, in Manhattan, and this was before they had their baby and bought a house upstate. Dan absolutely loved walking the streets of New York. Well, then came baby, who is now 35, and they bought a house up in the country, which for New Yorkers is something I guess you do. And so on the weekends when we were there, we would go up to Hillsdale, and Dan didn't get to walk the streets of New York as much. He did, I don't think he ever said much to Margaret or Wayne about this practice, but I knew. And then as years went by, the last few times we went to New York, Dan got angry at himself because Wayne and Margaret are both psychologists, and they would challenge him to keep his health good so he could walk those streets. And he would try, and we did some, but we ended up doing more things by taxi, which he loved too, because he got to talk to all these taxi drivers. And he would tell Wayne, yeah, I'm gonna get a membership at this club or that club, and maybe he didn't, who knows. But his ability to be active in New York went downhill. The last time we were there in New York for last Thanksgiving and for all of our birthdays, his heart was definitely starting to fail him. But anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about our family of origin. Dan and my brother Douglas, who passed when he was in his 60s from cancer, were the first two. I think that both Doug and Daniel and myself were both born in Omaha. And I was sort of an afterthought. So a couple of years later, while we were in California, our father was too old for World War II. So he went to Richmond, to the shipyards, and got a job there during the war. So we all followed, and number two sister came along because I needed a playmate, you know that. So Margaret was born in, I think San Pablo or something like that. Anyway, so Mom and Dad, well, our dad was an alcoholic also. But I never knew that until after he died, which was when I was 12 years old. But our family of origin, and Dan and I talked about this many, many times,
Microphone.
was not really, thank you, that was my daughter-in-law coaching me, weren't really that supportive. They came from rough backgrounds, and I know my mom's family, her father was often doing this and often doing that. So Clara, the mother, had to take care of 7 children. And there just wasn't that kind of support. So when Dan got in high school, he found all of these wonderful buds. Some of them were in some of the pictures over here, a few of them. But he was high rolling. He was out there having a good time. I was looking through his 1947 yearbook, and there were comments lots and lots, there's probably 100 comments in there. A couple of them that stuck up to me was, Danny, you better shape up. So, many years later, and 3 lives later, 46 years ago on Cinco de Mayo this year, he found AA. Over all of these marriages and doing things and what have you, he was looking for family. I mean, we were family, but we all scattered. I got married at 18, didn't need to want to be in that house anymore. Our father had passed when I was 12, so Dan was 20, something like that, 22. Anyway, he went from family to family. His first wife is the one he still loved up until the day he went to sleep and died. He believed that he had one biological son, who Keith, there's a couple pictures of him over here, who he was estranged from, not for lack of will or lack of wanting. It wasn't a happy situation for Dan. That was one of his issues. Haven't even been able to notify him because he's sort of out of touch. He just got out of touch. And if you Google Keith Daniel Brown Smith, you're not going to find him. There's just too many out there. But anyway, going through the 3 marriages, he finally found in Anthony's grandmother, his 3rd wife, he found family because he was helping to raise Mary's children and grandchildren. One of the things he told me towards the end was that, I think there were some of you in the room at the same time, Anthony may also have been in the room at that time, was that Anthony and his mother were one of the reasons why he got sober. Because Troy Lynn announced at 16 that she was pregnant, and Dan got all upset and did what he did and all that kind of stuff. And about 8 months or so later, Anthony showed up, and he had a big hand in raising Anthony and Alicia and Troy Lynn and Elizabeth and Michael. Did I miss anybody? Okay. And he did find you guys. And that gave him, that now or then had a family. 46 years of hard work, following all the principles, the steps. He was the greatest 12th stepper in the world. He really knew what he was doing to step. So anyway, I want to thank every single one of you who are in the program that are here. One of my best friends is over here who belongs to me. She's one of my close friends and is part of my family. But I just want to thank you all. You helped him last 46 years, longer than he probably would have. Michelle keeps reminding me I have lots of stories to tell, and I have to, the one that comes to mind, and they all heard, whoever came in to visit him while he was in the VA, Dan was very ticklish. You got near his toes, and you heard it, and everybody here knows what that means, you heard it. Well, when I was little, he was 12 years older than I was, and Douglas was 10 years older, and they would gang up on me and tickle me. So I took great joy in seeing him wiggle and cuss when someone would get near his Tootsie Toes. One of the other things I remember, there's not, growing up in birth family like we grew up in, there wasn't a whole bunch of loves and hugs and this kind of stuff. We got the obligatory kiss goodnight. But one of the things that did bring us a little bit together was pudding. In our family, we always had meat and potatoes and vegetables and a dessert. And Mother would often make pudding. Well, Dan took joy in stealing my pudding. And so from that day on, which was probably 70 years ago, from that day on, I don't care for pudding. Because I know it's going to be hidden somewhere. And anyway, I want to, again, thank you all for being part of his life. I have learned in the last 2 months since he called me to come. He actually told me I didn't need to come this time because he was going to be fine. Lo and behold, we had lots and lots of discussion about death and dying, he and I, and he chose how he wanted to go. We had a long chat. Jeff and Jimmy were there at the time, and Dan and the doctors and I. We had Margaret and Wayne on speakerphone, and we made a decision on the, I think it was the Sunday prior to his passing, and he passed on a Wednesday, and we had long decisions about his quality of life and his health and how his heart was working or not working. And in the end, it was the valve, the aortic valve just had stopped working. So his last few days, he was on medications, and we thought we were weaning him off of those medications, or the doctors did. And lo and behold, they just had to keep increasing it. So his heart basically told us that he was through, and he agreed. I put in the obituary that he truly believed that he had finished what he needed to do. And as my son eloquently said in a note to his side of the family, the Baldwin side of the family, he was ready to organize an AA meeting up in heaven. And get it going up there, because of course he knew he was needed. So in the long run, on the Tuesday that my sister and brother-in-law arrived from New York, he told us all that he was done. He wanted the plug pulled, his words, He made that decision. He says, okay, we made the decision, pull the plug. That's what he said verbatim. And so we talked with the doctors and told them that was his decision, and basically he then went to sleep. They hadn't even started giving him medication to make him comfortable. He then went to sleep. And during the night, I was just exhausted, and my brother and sister-in-law were there, and Jeff sat with him. Jeff isn't on the speaking agenda today because he's done his part. He has helped me up for the last month and a half. But Jeff was sitting with him during the night, and Dan didn't wake, but he got very restless. And the nurse came in. The nurse, we were able, in the VA hospital, they change your nurses while you're in ICU every day, whatever. Well, we liked this one nurse that he had. It was a guy who used to be a Marine. And so he came in to help settle Dan down. And he couldn't until Dan heard Jeff's voice. And he settled down. went back to sleep comfortably, and at about noon on Wednesday, Dan opened his eyes, looked, I can't tell whether he saw Margaret Wayne and myself. I believe he did, and he went to sleep forever. It was as peaceful as it could have been, and that's what he wanted. So, here we are to celebrate his life. I want to thank Jeff and Laura's support. For me, he's been there every time I call. He's there, carrying garbage off from the house, all kinds of stuff. Whenever I needed something, he calmed me down first and then took care of it. I want to thank everybody else who's had a part in that. Dan was 89 when he died. I'm not that much younger, so I don't, if you see me and you've already introduced yourself, go ahead and do it again. Because Dan actually was much better than me on names. Even to the very end, he could remember all of the Democratic candidates by name. I have a hard time with names. Anyway, I want to thank everyone, Chris and Michelle and Mark. Mark has a house for sale, by the way. It's only 570 square feet. However, it's a good deal. And he's handling that for me. I cleaned it all out. It really looks nice if you want to drive by. There's not a weed in sight. Not one single weed.
One cat.
One cat.
One cat.
Oh, there's a cat. Oh, yes. My son thinks I should raffle off Charlie Brown. Unfortunately, we can't get him out from under the bed. So I'm going to bring the dog catchers in on Monday, not to carry him away, but to at least help me get him out from under the bed so I can see if he and my dogs get along. He's never seen a dog, I think. But anyway.
But if you want him.
What?
But if they want him.
Oh, and so if you want Charlie Brown, let me know. He comes with food. and a great lot of food tray, basket, or thingy job. It's a thingy job for his food and his
Throw in
water.
some flowers.
It's really good. So let me know. Or let Jeff know. He takes care of everything. I want to thank my son and daughter-in-law and grandson who are here in the front row. Dan and Nancy. These flowers, they're hers. Nancy is an award-winning floral artist in the San Diego area. And she did this for Dan. Dan loved her flowers. And so all of these were her creations. Nancy, would you like to, come here.
Uh-huh.
Dan, oh, she's got a broken knee or something.
Yes.
After this is all done, I know that I get to take